Hey YouTube, this is PrimetimePokemon. In this video, I'll be reviewing and then giving away the Resilient Life X and Y theme deck. This theme deck was $12.99 from Target, and this deck is a Psychic and Fairy type deck, and the main Pokemon in this deck is Xerneas. At the end of this video, I'll state the rules for the giveaway, but first I'll review this deck. And there is one other X and Y theme deck that was released with the set, and it is called Destruction Rush, and it is a Fighting and Darkness type deck. I'll be giving that deck away next month. So, this Resilient Life theme deck, I'll turn around, and on the back of the box, it has the deck list and then an information about the Resilient Life theme deck, summary here, and then what you'll find in the box. And when you do, whoever does win this theme deck will get everything listed right here. And I'll show all of that stuff when I open the deck up. But I'll summarize the Resilient Life theme deck. It says, a strong shield of energy. Resist, refuel, and retaliate with the Resilient Life theme deck. Xerneas can find fairy energy to recharge your bench Pokemon, and Aromatisse moves that energy around to wherever you need it most. Once your Pokemon have fairy energy attached, things get even better. Slurpuff's Sweet Veil ability protects them from special conditions, and the Fairy Garden Stadium card lets them retreat for free. Flexible defenses are the key to your victory. So now I'll open it up, and as you can see, I've already opened this deck just to get everything in order. But whoever does win this theme deck will get everything you see here. And if you're wondering how to play the Pokemon TCG, I have a playlist on YouTube explaining how to play. But here's the damage counters, poison marker, and burn marker. Here's a playmat, which is very good for beginners to use. Here's the X and Y checklist. Here's the deck box with the 60 card deck. Here is the special holofoil Xerneas, and there are 2 Xerneas total in the deck. And then here's the online TCG code card to unlock this theme deck for the online TCG. And then lastly, there is a Xerneas coin as well. Actually, it goes like that. Okay, so now I'll review every single card in this deck. So, the first Pokemon in this deck is, of course, the best card in the deck, which is Xerneas. And there are 2 of these, that holofoil one I showed earlier, and then this non-holo rare one. And Xerneas is a basic Pokemon, fairy type, has 130 HP, 2 moves. Geomancy, which just requires 1 fairy type energy card, and it says to choose 2 of your bench Pokemon. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a fairy type energy card and attach it to that Pokemon. And then Rainbow Spear does 100 damage for 3 energy cards. So what you're going to want to do is, Xerneas is very good at the beginning of a game to set up your bench Pokemon. And then once you set up your bench Pokemon, you can actually use Rainbow Spear several times. I'd actually use 1 Xerneas in the deck to start the game and using mainly Geomancy. And then the other Xerneas in the deck, I'd leave on the bench and probably put 5 or 6 energy cards on there. That way, when I move it to the active Pokemon spot and use Rainbow Spear, I can actually use that move consecutive turns in a row without having to reattach energy cards. And you can knock out pretty much all Pokemon except for Mega Evolution Pokemon in 2 moves or less with Rainbow Spear. Very good basic Pokemon, and you could always look to add more Xerneas in the deck if you would like to. Next up, there's a 2-1 line of Spritzee and Aromatisse. Spritzee, 50 HP for basic, a little lower than you'd like. 2 moves, Sweet Scent, allows you to heal 20 damage for one of your Pokemon, and then Flop does 20 damage for 2 energy cards. So other than the HP being a little bit low, this is a pretty solid basic Pokemon. Good one to have in this deck. And then Aromatisse, and on the back of the box, it talked about Aromatisse's. It talked about it, and it talks about moving energy around wherever you need it most, and it must be talking about this Fairy Transfer move. So average HP on Aromatisse. Its ability, Fairy Transfer, says, as often as you like during your turn, you may move a Fairy-type energy attached to one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. So it's a very good card to have on your bench, especially this ability is very useful. So you could have Xerneas right away in the active Pokemon spot, use Geomancy probably 3, 4, 5 times in a row if you can stay out there that long. And then you could use Fairy Transfer to transfer some of those Fairy-type energy cards from your bench Pokemon to Xerneas as your active Pokemon. And then you could use Rainbow Spear, no problem at all. So this is a very good card. It works very well with Xerneas. I'd actually consider having 2 of these as well in the deck, just so you can make sure and have this ability in use pretty much the entire game. Next up is a 2-1 line of Swirlix and Slurpuff. 60 HP on Swirlix, 2 moves, Tackle and Fairy Wind. So a very solid basic Pokemon card. Definitely one that I consider a great starter type card. I'd actually consider putting 4 of these in a deck if you're looking for a basic Fairy type Pokemon. Very good. And then Slurpuff, another stage 1 Fairy type Pokemon card with 90 HP. This card has an ability as well called Sweet Veil, and this protects your Pokemon from special conditions. And it says each of your Pokemon that has any Fairy type energy attached to it can't be affected by any special conditions. So far, Xerneas, Slurpuff, and Aromatisse really work well together. So you're going to load up all of your Pokemon with Xerneas. Then you can move them however you'd like from one Pokemon to another with Aromatisse's ability. And then you can also have Slurpuff on your bench to use its ability called Sweet Veil. That way, none of your Pokemon that are Fairy type and have energy cards on them can be affected by special conditions. So Fairy type is very strong so far. The few cards that I've looked at in this deck, I really like this deck so far. And then Draining Kiss does 30 damage for 2 energy cards, and it heals 30 damage from this Pokemon. Retreat cost is 2 energy cards, so a little bit high, but you're probably going to keep this card on your bench for most of the game. So far I'm very impressed by the Fairy type cards in this deck so far. Those are all newer Fairy type cards. Now we're on to Mr. Mime. And there's just 2 Mr. Mime in the deck. Of course, it can't evolve, but it has 80 HP, 2 moves, Massage and Slapdown. Massage heals 60 damage from one of your bench Pokemon. So another move that heals damage, Draining Kiss on Slurpuff also healed damage. And then Slapdown does 40 damage plus 20 more damage for each heads you get when you flip 2 coins. So Mr. Mime isn't that bad, but this is definitely a card that I consider moving out of the deck if you'd like to add another Xerneas or another stage 1 of either Slurpuff or Aromatisse. Another older Pokemon now, Jigglypuff. There are 2 Jigglypuff, and of course Wigglytuff in this set is a rare card. You can always look to add that card. Jigglypuff, 70 HP, so it's above average HP, and it does 20 damage for 2 energy cards. Plus, if you get a heads when you flip a coin when using Body Slam, it paralyzes the defending Pokemon. But again, the retreat cost is a little bit higher. So I'd say this is an average to just slightly below average basic Pokemon. It may be better if you use it with Wigglytuff. So that's it for the Fairy type cards. I really, really like Swirlix, Slurpuff, Spritzee, Aromatisse, and Xerneas. Mr. Mime and Jigglypuff, not so much, but I definitely think that the first 5 Pokemon that I mentioned build a very solid deck together. Now we're on to the Psychic type Pokemon. There is a 3-2-1 line of Venipede, Whirlipede, and Scolipede. Venipede, another basic Pokemon with 70 HP, and Poison Sting does 20 damage and poisons the defending Pokemon. So this is a good move. It automatically poisons that Pokemon, but it has even higher retreat cost. So if you move this card to the active Pokemon spot, I would probably make sure that you get one of its evolutions out within a turn or two. Otherwise, you don't want to have to spend 3 energy cards just to retreat a basic Pokemon. So 3 of those, 2 Whirlipede, 90 HP, so average HP, just 1 move, and it says flip a coin until you get tails. This attack does 30 damage times the number of heads. So this card is absolutely worthless in my opinion. Venipede is pretty decent, but if you want to use Whirlipede, if you have Venipede out there, I'd actually hold off until you get both Whirlipede and Scolipede in your hand, because Venipede, in my opinion, is much better than Whirlipede, other than having higher HP. So I'd either have Venipede out in the active Pokemon spot and evolve it to Whirlipede, and then right away the next turn do Scolipede, or don't even put Venipede in the active Pokemon spot until you can evolve it to Scolipede. Scolipede, 150 HP for a Stage 2 card. It's pretty good. Has 2 moves. Random Peck does 20 damage for each heads you get when you flip 2 coins. And then Poison Ring does 70 damage for 4 energy cards. And the defending Pokemon is poisoned. So overall, I'm not really impressed by this line at all. Venipede was pretty decent, Whirlipede not good, and then Scolipede is just average. Neither of these 2 moves really do much for me. Retreat costs on all 3 of these Pokemon are pretty high, so I might look, and if I want to do a dual type deck of Psychic and Fairy type, I might try to find a different Psychic type line out there. Okay, next up is 2 Phantump, another basic Pokemon from the Kalos region, 60 HP. So average HP, and then has 2 moves. Hook does 30 damage for 3 energy cards. I never like when Pokemon that only have 60 HP have a move that requires 3 energy cards. And then Astonish, choose a random card from your opponent's hand, and your opponent reveals that card and shuffles it into their hand. So Phantump, I would get this out of here. So far, I'm not impressed at all by the Psychic type cards in this deck. Bumpkaboo, another basic. There are 2 Bumpkaboo and 60 HP. Just 1 move called Confuse Ray, and it confuses the defending Pokemon. So several Pokemon in this deck that can inflict special conditions on your opponent's Pokemon. And then now we're on to the old school Pokemon again. There are 2 Ekans in this deck. 70 HP for Ekans, and requires 2 colorless energy cards to do 20 damage. So this isn't a terrible Psychic Pokemon card. Probably the best one that I've seen so far out of the Psychic ones. And then Spoink. There is 2 Spoink. This one is quite limited, but it has average HP and an average move. So it's not bad if you have to start the game with this card. That's it for the Psychic type Pokemon. Compared to the Fairy type, the Psychic ones are definitely much worse. So if you're looking to build a dual type deck, like I mentioned, you might want to revamp all of those Psychic Pokemon. They don't do much for me at all. So we're on to the Colorless Pokemon. There are just 2 in this deck. There's a 2-2 line of Doduo and Dodrio. Doduo, so another basic Pokemon with above average HP. It only has 1 move though that requires 3 energy cards, and it does 30 damage times the number of heads. So unless Dodrio is pretty good, I wouldn't use this line at all. Dodrio, 90 HP, and it has 2 moves. Rage does 20 damage plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon, so it could potentially do 100 damage. And then Endeavor does 50 damage plus 20 more damage for each heads you get when you flip 2 coins, all for 3 colorless energy cards, so that can possibly do 90 damage. So 80 damage and 90 damage. This card can do quite a bit of damage. I'm not very impressed by Doduo, so if you want to use this line in your deck, I'd probably set up Doduo on the bench and then evolve it into Dodrio. So that's it for the Pokemon in this deck. Like I've mentioned several times, I was really impressed by the first 5 Fairy-type Pokemon in this deck. I could really see myself building a deck around those Pokemon. Psychic-type Pokemon were a big letdown, in my opinion. And then the colorless type, just the 2 of them. Dodrio was okay. Doduo didn't do anything for me at all. So now we're on to the trainer cards. There are 1 Evosoda cards, or Evo Soda. It says to search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon. Shuffle your deck afterward. Next up is a Stadium card, a Fairy Garden Stadium card. It says each Pokemon that has any Fairy-type energy attached to it has no retreat costs. So this is an absolutely amazing Stadium card right here. This really makes the deck. You always should have this card in play if you can. I'd even consider putting more than one of these in your deck just so you can make sure and have this Stadium card in play as often as possible. That's a really good Stadium card right there. No matter what Fairy type deck you build, you're always going to want to have that Stadium card in the deck. Next, there are 2 Great Ball Trainers, and it says to look at the top 7 cards of your deck, and you may reveal a Pokemon you find there and put it into your hand. Max Revive says to put a Pokemon from your discard pile on top of your deck. There are 2 Tierno Trainers, and it says to draw 3 cards. Not bad at all. There are 2 Professor's Letter Trainer cards. It says to search your deck for 2 basic energy cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand. These 2 trainer cards are very useful for getting Fairy-type energy cards into your hand, and that way you can put them on your Pokemon quicker. Professor Sycamore is another supporter card, and this basically allows you to refresh your hand. You can just discard your entire hand and draw 7 new cards, just one of these in the deck. And then there is 1 Roller Skates trainer card, and it says flip a coin. If heads, draw 3 cards. I'd probably replace this Roller Skates card with the Tierno supporter card. It allows you just to draw 3 cards without flipping a coin. The last trainer card is a Super Potion. It allows you to heal 60 damage from one of your Pokemon. If you do, discard an energy attached to that Pokemon. So that's it for the trainers. Like I said, the pretty basic trainers and supporter cards in this theme deck. That's usually the way theme decks roll, with just basic ones. But like I mentioned, Fairy Garden, if you're going to build a Fairy type deck, you have to have that supporter card in your deck. And then energy cards, 11 Fairy, 7 Psychic. So that is it for the Resilient Life theme deck. Overall, I would say it's about an average deck. I would say these Fairy type cards in the deck are probably going to be probably a 4 out of 5, even close to a 5 out of 5 rating. I'm pretty impressed by the Fairy type cards in this deck, including that Fairy Garden supporter. However, the Psychic and Colorless type Pokemon are a big letdown, so on average they average out to be about an average deck. So we'll see when I review the Destruction Rush theme deck next month. I'll have to compare the 2 and see which one I like better. So that's it for the review. Now on to the giveaway. And I always give away these theme decks. I've been giving away theme decks on YouTube for several years now, and the way that you win this theme deck is you have to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and then in the comment section of this video, post a comment saying that you'd like to enter, and then tell me what your favorite Pokemon is, either Xerneas or Yveltal. So between Xerneas and Yveltal, which one do you like better? So that is it. There's the rules to entry. And for complete rules to entry, make sure to read the video description of this video. In a few weeks from now, I'll be selecting a winner, and I'll be posting a video selecting the winner. And all I do is I use a random number generator and randomly select a commenter. As long as that commenter has successfully entered for the theme deck giveaway, they'll win that theme deck. And I do give away the theme deck to anywhere in the world, so if you live outside of the United States, feel free to enter. So, thanks everyone for watching. Before you go, make sure and check out all the links in the video description of this video, my blog, Facebook, and Twitter links, and stay tuned for more videos. Thank you.